Hi everyone, I'm DIYte and today I'm going to show you how I recently replaced the very dated 1970s door furniture on the spare room door, which I'm currently refurbishing, with this. And because these new doorknobs don't have their own internal spring, I thought I'd share with you an exciting discovery I made recently with these heavy-duty tubular latches. So the first thing I've got to do is remove this disgusting, dated, well, some of you might quite like it, 1970s door furniture. I don't know whether any of you have encountered one of these, but these are quite interesting. So that screws off like that, unscrews I should say. And then you've got 3 screws for the faceplate. Strange, huh? I've already taken the tubular latch out because I'm going to replace it with this heavy-duty tubular latch I bought from Ironmongery Direct. It's a great mail order company which sort of specialises in, well, as you can see, ironmongery, other hardware. Picked up on eBay these sort of Victorian style, quite nice actually, brass door handles, and I've fitted these on one of our other bedrooms. The problem is they don't have any spring mechanism in them, so if you're relying on one of your sort of old tubular latches on the door, I've found on my other rooms that it's not really strong enough to properly operate the latch because there's no spring in the actual doorknob itself. So what's good about these heavy duty latches when compared with the old latch that I've just taken out is that they've got a heavy double spring inside which ensures that the knob will always spring the latch back into its neutral position. But even with that heavy duty spring, there's a soft bolt spring which ensures that the door opens and shuts quietly. And it's worth remembering that these work on both sprung and, like I've got here, unsprung door furniture. Now, before I show you how I replace the tubular latch in my door, there's one more point to be aware of if you're thinking about going out and buying yourself a new latch for whatever reason for your doors. These latches come in a variety of lengths. This was the original latch that I've just taken out. I found quite a good summary on a website called Handles for Doors that sets this out quite well. When you're buying a new tubular latch, you're likely to see 2 different sizes quoted: the case size and the backset size. The case size is the overall length of the latch itself, and the backset size is the distance from the centre of the spindle to the front of the latch. As you can see from the Handles for Doors visual, the most common size has a casing which is 63mm in depth and a backset size of 44mm. But in my case, the original latch that I was replacing, because it wasn't strong enough, was a bit strange because it had a backset size of 72mm. So in my efforts to find a direct replacement for that, I originally bought the tubular latch that you see at the top of this picture, which had a 57mm backset. This wasn't wide enough for what I wanted, and there's a very good reason for that. If you go with a latch that has too small a backset, you might find that your knuckles end up clashing with the inside of the door frame when you try and open the door. So I then decided to jump up to the next size up, which has a backset size of 82mm. You see here this close-up from the Ironmongery Direct brochure, which sets out all the case sizes and backset sizes, and they go from 44mm, which is I suppose the typical, right up to 107mm for the backset. Now clearly, unless you've had this problem with your knuckles clashing on the door frame, you're going to want to find a tubular latch that most accurately reflects the backset, the existing backset size of your door. And you do that by either taking a measurement from the edge of the door to the centre of the hole that the spindle goes through in your door, or better still, take out your existing tubular latch and measure that distance for yourself so that you can see exactly what length of backset you require. But if, like me, you're not able to find a tubular latch that matches the old one, you're going to need to do a little bit of alterations to your door, and that's what's coming up now. Okay, now I've removed that door plate and the plate that the handle used to be fixed to. I've got a few things to do. First thing I've got to do, using my trusty little block with some 120 grade sandpaper, is just sand flat the door where the screws went in. Now, my new tubular latch is slightly longer than the existing one. So I've got to fill these holes and then re-drill for the new latch. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that having carefully filled the hole in the door, as you're about to see, the new door handle actually covers up all the neat filling work that we did. So actually, in this situation, I didn't need to do the filling. But I've left that section of the video in because I just want to show you how easy it is to make repairs to hollow core doors should you need to do so. To do that, I made myself a little piece of wood. I'm going to insert that into the hole in the door. And I've got a little bit of scrap piece of Perspex here. I'm going to cut a piece of that Perspex off. Whoops. The easiest way to cut Perspex, rather than trying to saw it, is to get a knife, I'm using actually the underside, and to score the Perspex with the knife. I've actually turned, this is my Leatherman, I've just turned it the wrong way up. Being very careful not to go anywhere near the break on the knife, because I don't want the blade to snap up. I'm only doing this lightly anyway, so there's no real chance of anything going wrong. There we go. One piece of Perspex. Now I'm going to insert this into the latch hole. The idea being I can now fill in there and then slide out the bit of Perspex once the filler starts to dry. Being Perspex, it shouldn't adhere to it. Now it's out with the wood filler. This is just standard 2-pot wood filler from Everbuild. I always use 2-pot wood filler because it sets so much quicker and allows you to continue with your repair, whatever that may be. If you use a one pot wood filler, you're going to be waiting for ages for the filler to set. The other thing I tend to do is I tend to mix it on a piece of wood. Could use a bit of the Perspex I had just now, but I'm going to be a lot of you have Perspex lying about, whereas you're much more likely to have a piece of wood lying about in the shed, whatever. So I just put a little bit of hardener in. They say, I think it's like a pea to a golf ball. Now that wasn't anywhere near the size of a golf ball, the filler I just measured out, so I've just used a tiny little squeeze of the hardener, and you see how I'm mixing it up. On with the repair. But I'm using my Continental filler knife now. You just get a little bit more feel with these than you do with your typical decorator's filler knife. What I'm wanting to do with this filler is take away as much as I can from around the edges, because if you leave any on the surface, it's much more difficult to sand. But you want to try and leave it slightly proud as well. Otherwise you've got to go over it and apply some more filler once it's dried, which is actually not a problem at all, but you want to try and minimise the amount of steps that you're making. Alright, that was pretty good. I'm going to leave that now to set, which will probably be about 5-10 minutes. Okay, so that has been setting for about half an hour. I'm just going to try and lever it away. There we go. Out it comes. The Perspex has done its job brilliantly. Now I just need to sand that. I'll start with some 80 grade. That's sanded with minimal effort. And now onto the slightly finer 120 grade. And that's all ready for priming. Right, now I've got to make way for the tubular latch, which requires a 100mm hole drilled in the door. The door has previously been drilled for a smaller latch, So I've just got to let in a little bit more, as you see. I'm using a 25mm flat wood bit. This is the bit I'm most worried about because it's been previously drilled. My flat wood bit is going to ricochet around a bit in the hole. So I've got to be a little bit careful how I do this. Right, happy with that. Notice these latches have a little logo on that says this way up. And that's important because these heavy duty spring latches will only turn the handle one way, whereas your sort of standard tubular latches turn both ways. What you don't want to find is when you put the handle into the door, it's opening the door with the handle turning the wrong way. I'm just going to get a Stanley blade now to score where I'm chiseling, because that's going to give me a really nice clean line. Now I'm just going to make the rebate a little bit deeper. I'll be so careful because this old door is a little bit knackered and may need to be glued along here. You can see it slightly coming away. Just got to be very careful how I'm chiseling. Right, we're getting there. Now that I've got this where I want it, I'm just going to score a couple of pencil lines up to the top of the door. And I'm also going to mark the centre of the latch itself and just draw that to where the latch is going to be going. Now I can plot pretty accurately where to drill the hole on the top of the door. So I'm just making that flush as it's going to be when it's sunk into the door. Now when I lift that way, that shows you where I've got to drill. Now a word of advice at this point. If like me you're cutting a new door down to fit into an opening, I've actually reduced the width of this doorway as part of the spare room refurb, so the door had to be narrower. Don't do what I did and drill this hole before making sure that your door closes properly. Because stupidly I didn't do that, and then I had to go through the process you've just seen all over again, plane off 4 or 5 millimeters from the edge of the door and widen the hole that I drilled very accurately on the side of the door. So it's an obvious point, but make sure your door fits properly before you drill the holes for the spindle of the door furniture. To drill the hole I'm going to use a 60mm flat wood bit. Could have gone slightly less than that, but this gives me a nice margin for error. And the same on the other side. Works every time. The thing I like about this pack is you actually get reasonably decent screws. So often you get really soft brass screws that just start to shear as soon as you screw them in. And now I didn't drill a pilot hole there because there was already a hole in place from the last plate, but it's often a good idea to drill a pilot hole. Because what you don't want is for the screw to wander, which will throw out the position of your plate. There we go. Now, before I put the faceplate on, which will lock the latch in place, it's worth pointing out the great thing about these latches is they've got a swivel function there, so that you can just swivel it around depending on which way your door turns. Now, this is hopefully the relatively easy bit. What I tend to find with this is the crucial thing is to try and get it as central as possible. You obviously want the 3 screws to avoid the latch that runs across the middle, so you can tilt these plates here. Feel for a central position. I don't want it right at the top, I don't want it right at the bottom. Seems about right. I'm going to mark that with a pencil. Now I'm going to mark with a bradawl the position of each hole, because I don't want the drill to wander one tiny little bit. That's problematic. It's right where the wood filler was. Right, I'm changing the position of that because of the wood filler that I put on previously. So I'm going to re-mark those holes. That's much better. Each of those holes is now drilled properly into the hardboard face of the door. Right, the screws that come with these packs are notoriously easy to cross thread. So got to be really careful here, particularly given that I'm going to want to take these screws off when I repaint the door. So I'm using my Stanley ratchet screwdriver, and I'm just going to very gently screw each one in. And there we go, with a heavy duty spring, you see it's got really lovely operation and no worries of that latch getting caught like it did before. And now with the door shut, I can mark the exact position of the latch. Don't tell the missus, but just putting a little bit of lipstick on the edge of the latch. When I shut the door, we've got an imprint of exactly where the latch needs to go. Now we can set the final bit of door furniture. That is what we've got to remove. I'm really pleased with this. Look, because we marked the position of the latch so accurately with the lipstick, there's no rattle on the door whatsoever. And the soft spring on the latch itself means that the door closes with a very gentle, seamless action. So that's it, this job is now finished. All I've got to do now is give the door a paint. So I really hope you found today's video useful. I know it's gone on a bit, but hopefully it's made you realise that actually the processes involved on something like this are actually really straightforward. Details of all the tools I've used and the hardware, the tubular latch itself, will be in the description at the end of this video. So do click on the show more button or the little black arrow, depending on whether you're viewing on a smartphone or your computer, to open up that description box. As ever, it'd be great to hear from you. Drop me a comment in the comment section below. If you've liked today's video, please click on the like button below. And if you're new to my channel, I'd love to have you subscribe. You can do that by clicking on the link here.